Good evening, everybody. Well, it is Monday night. Worship and Wellness is in the building. How are you tonight? I see these numbers are jumping up. I am excited to talk with you all. I've missed you. It's been a whole week for some of you, and some of you I've seen a couple of days ago, but either way, it's all right. I hope your day is great. I hope all is well. I have a great guest with me this evening. Good topic, good yummy stuff. Last week we talked about wellness of the heart. We know February oftentimes is viewed as, well, number one is Heart Month, Heart Awareness Month, but also Valentine's, right? So then we're talking about the heart. So last week we talked about matters of the heart, physically, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Today we are talking about for the love of money, right? And we're really going to talk about the basics, right? Let's get back to the basics. And so we're going to talk about 7 good steps to getting back to financial basics, financial wellness. All of this circumvents around wellness. And we know that this happens to be one of the areas that if we are not well in this area, it affects so many other things in our life. So I'm excited that you are joining us. We are going to get in it, but you all know, for those that join, please send a little note so that I know who's here. I got Margaret Holland on the line. Good evening, sugar. How are you? So good for you to join. And of course, I got my good friend Tandra Calvert, always with us each week. So I'm so excited that you have joined us. For those that are watching, make sure you share on your own page this live. You never know who is watching your own page that could benefit from this information. So I am, with no further ado, I'm going to say a prayer for us this evening, and then I'm going to bring our guest on, and we're going to greet you, and we're going to have a good time in discussion, and we're not going to be before you long, so you want to get it and go. All right, that's what we're going to do tonight. All right, dear Lord, we thank you for this evening. Thank you for this moment in time, this space. We thank you for knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Father, your word says in all things gain understanding. So we thank you for the understanding and for the tools and for the practical tools that we can be able to use to be better and be well in our financial affairs. I thank you right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Woo! Everybody say amen. Let the church say amen. All right. Well, I, with no further ado, am going to bring on a woman who is no stranger to worship and wellness. She has graced us with her presence and her knowledge before. So it is only befitting that we bring her back as we talk about money and finance. And that's none other than Leslie Ashley. I'm bringing you in, Leslie.
Hey. Hello, everyone.
Good
evening. How are you?
I am so good. How are you today? How are you feeling?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. You're welcome. I'm loving that color. You got me thinking. I'm looking at my hair. I'm like, time for some color. I don't know. That's a nice one. I might go back to that color. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So, you know what we're talking about tonight. I have Sonia Bello just joined. Hey, so glad that you can join us. It was good seeing you yesterday, sis. I hope all is well with you today and your mom. Tonight we are talking about, for the love of money, basic financing. And I love the fact that your title is wealth advisor, not financial advisor. We are trying to live in the wealth, right? We want to live in the wealth. Many of us don't think about our latter life to live in the wealth of our latter life. We think about being financially okay, or I just want to pay my bills, or we sometimes don't tend to this area or aspect of our lives the way we should. Many of us don't even know where to begin. Some of us feel like we're too old, we've screwed up so long, there's no way to get around. So I just want to be able to provide us with some biblical principles with practical steps, which is what worship and wellness is about. We believe in biblical principles, practical steps. So before we even get in tonight, we're going to really just cover like 7 tips. Before I even get into that, why don't you share with us a little bit about who you are and your background and your expertise and why you are who you are?
Well, good evening again, everyone. My name, as Tanya said, is Leslie Ashley. I am a wealth advisor associate with a firm called William Blair. I've been in the financial services industry for over 30 years. So I am a licensed financial advisor, which means I'm licensed with the NASD to sell financial products and provide financial advice. And my sort of goal is to bring more folks of color into the financial services industry so that they learn more about sort of how to grow wealth, how to grow generational wealth. Unfortunately, we're our race just isn't well represented there, whether it be employees or clients. So that's sort of my background and what my goals are as far as being a financial advisor.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you said that. You are right. Unfortunately, our color, our ethnicity has unfortunately not been educated earlier enough, right? We don't talk
Right.
about it early enough when our children are young and knowing where to go and what to do. So often, historically, either there's only, you have one parent homes and, so I'm just trying to, I'm trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, right? I'm trying
Right.
to maintain my bills and maintain my children. And then the stigma that comes from it. And oftentimes we don't realize or we don't think about this component until we need it. Right. Until I done messed up my credit so bad, but now I need to move. Like I'm as a realtor, oftentimes I have people that'll come to me and they're like, I need another rental, but I can't find a rental because my credit is messed up or because my finances aren't in order. I can't buy a home. Oh, I didn't realize my credit was important. Oh, I didn't realize that. Guess what? I can have money, but if my credit's not good, I can't get certain things, or my credit is good and I don't have the money to get
money. Right.
It is, the dichotomy of the two. And so I agree. We don't see enough of us, our own kind, in the financial institutions, definitely heavily dominated by men and the white class more times than not. So I appreciate you saying that. Hey, Jean, I got Miss Jean is in the building. I got Mildred in the building. We are talking about money. So every time you hear the word money, I want y'all to say money, 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 money. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. All right. So, I appreciate you saying, really trying to bring more awareness to us, to people, period, just about how to grow generational wealth, right? It's a phrase we hear, but we don't necessarily gravitate to that. Oh, but many of us will gravitate to the latest, the latest car, the latest
fashion,
fashions, wigs. I got plenty. I ain't no shit in my game. I'm just saying, you got to also make sure your money is doing what it needs to do. There's a phrase that I'm learning now, even now, is that you want to assign your money, right? Give your money a destination. You can make money, but if you don't assign that money, you'll spend that money on whatever. And I have been a product of that. So I'm trying to do better with making sure I assign each dollar and where it belongs, right, in its destination. So yeah, any thoughts before we jump into this seven? Jean said, money, 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 money. Yes, what are we talking about? Anything that you want to start us off with before we go into some of these 7 tips that I want us to talk about and give scripture as well?
So just to back up what you just said about your money having a destination, I think it's very important that we're intentional as far as whatever our money is and whatever our savings goals are. We're intentional about those. I'm a big proponent of writing things down, keeping track of things. I tell my kids, like, it's great that you make this money, and but if you're not tracking it, if you're not in control of it, as you said, it's just going to leave. So it's very important to be intentional about making a budget, staying within that budget, setting financial goals, revisiting them to make sure you're on track, or resetting them if need be. But it's important to be intentional and take control of that process, just like you do with many other aspects of your life.
Well, I'm glad you said all those things, because I think that's like 3 of the 7 that we're going to talk about tonight. So we right in the core. So I'm going to start us off with the first tip, right? We're going to talk about 7 money tips, right? So the first tip I want to kind of throw out here to us to chat about, and for those that are on, I want you to also make sure, if you have questions, feel free to tag your questions in or comments, because I would love for this to be interactive. So we want to hear from you as much as you're hearing from us. So here's the first one. Set priorities, similar to what you were talking about, right? Set priorities. The scripture I want to throw out is Proverbs 24 and 27, where it says, put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house, right? And so it makes sense to identify what it is that you want to do first. What is the priority? What are the priorities in your life financially that you need to set? Thoughts, comments?
So the first thing that, like I said, we want to make sure that you hear this phrase of living within your means. But what does that mean, and how do we make sure that we're doing that? So there's 2 aspects of that. One, you need to make sure you're aware of what your cash flow is, after tax cash flow. This is how much money is coming into my pocket when I get paid, whether it's bi-weekly or monthly, or as all 3 of my kids get paid weekly. It blows my mind. I just worked for many years. I've never had a job where I got paid weekly, but whatever that cash flow is monthly, you need to be aware of what that is. And sometimes it's, you may work for a job and you've got a set salary, or you've got a set wage. And then some jobs, like mine, for example, part of that is, commission work. I'm sure as a realtor, right, commission work. So sometimes, that fluctuates. You might have a good month, you might have a bad month. Right. But you don't let that discourage you from, right, setting up a budget that you can live with. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep. So Ashley, before you even get into that piece, because I think that might be our number 2. Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about just first and foremost setting the priorities in order, like knowing even what that plan looks like? So, for example, when we talk about the plan, we want to make sure that we've identified what is it that I hear people say all the time, I'm trying to pay my bills down. I'm trying to pay my credit cards down. What are those? What is the plan? What is the financial plan? Is it to pay down your credit card? Is it to pay down your, student loans? Is it like, what are the priorities? I need to buy a house in a month or 2 years. What is that plan? And so can you talk a little bit about, even before the budgeting piece, the setting the plan, setting that priority?
Sure. So, we should all have short-term, intermediate term, long-term goals. That's for anything in your life, with, your career, your family, when you want to get married, when you have kids, and financially it's just as important. So you want to make sure that you have those goals, know what they are. My goals are certainly going to be different than Tanya's goals, who is going to be different than everybody else's. So, short term, what can I do as far as, saving, paying down debts, because that's very important. It's hard to, save if you keep accumulating debt that never goes away. Intermediate goals, whether it's my car, I know that I want to have to buy a new car in the next 6 months to a year. What do I need to make sure that I have money for a down payment? And then, long-term goals, it's if, you want to buy a house, or you've got this dream vacation. The big long-term goal for many of us is retirement. Are we going to be set for that? am I just going to be depending on Social Security, or or am I doing enough now to make sure that I'm able to supplement that when I reach retirement age? And what is my retirement age? Is it going to be 65? Is it going to be 70? And be realistic about when you're going to be able to retire and live comfortably. Nobody wants to retire and then find that the later years in your life you're still struggling with financial needs.
Sure. All right, awesome. Well, let's jump right into number 2, because you were right on it. I was like, oh wait, you jumping? Wait, hold on, wait a minute. So number 2, so I posted goal number 1. Here we are with number 2. Number 2 goal is make a budget.
Yes.
Right. Let's make a budget. So you have already prioritized whether you're talking about your short-term, your long-term, intermediate goals, whatever it is. Each goal, you need to make a budget for that goal.
Yes.
And so I want to start with the scripture, and then I'm gonna let you loose because you was going. I was like, wait a minute, I came right fast enough. Luke 14:28-30 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone will see it, will ridicule you, saying this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. Bottom line, if you decide that you have a goal and you begin the goal, but you haven't set a budget for that goal, the truth of the matter is you're not going to be able to complete that goal. So yeah, budget, go, you go.
So it's important, 2 sides of the budget ledger, if you will. One side, what's my cash flow? What's coming in financially? How much money is coming in to my pocket every month, so that I can sort of know that side of the ledger. Mm-hmm. The other side, what's going out? What are my debts? You'll have fixed debts, your mortgage or your car payment, rent, things like that. And then you have things that fluctuate every month. You might spend more on groceries this month. You might spend more on entertainment, gas. One week, it's $4 a gallon. It's $5 a gallon. So, right. Like that fluctuates. So we want to make sure that we're taking into account all those expenses. And make sure that we're budgeting for them, because obviously if you have more going out than coming in, there's a problem. So that's one. And if that's the case, then it's important to sort of address that, because no one can live in the negative month after month. So what can we do to either boost that income, whether it's taking a second job or whatever it is, or 2, what can we do to reduce those expenses? Maybe we can't afford to go out to eat dinner every week, or maybe we need to find a cheaper apartment, or refinance our mortgage, or whatever it is. But we need to make sure that what's coming in is more than what's going out. So that's and then how do I do that? Unfortunately, it takes some elbow grease. It just, as much as we'd like to say that, we can keep track of everything in our head, it really doesn't. So I'm a big proponent, like I said, of sort of writing things down. And, once you're able to write things down of this is what comes in, this is what goes out, you'd be amazed at the anxiety level that's reduced, because you feel like you're taking control of your sort of financial life. And you're able to, once you sort of have control of that and know what you're dealing with, then you're able to put a plan in place.
I think you really hit it on the head on the nail when you said write it down, right? Can you speak to, I've talked to so many people and I'm like, do you know what your credit score is? Or have you looked at, where you are financially? And people are even afraid to just look at it, right? And so I'll jokingly say, it can't talk back. Like, it's not going to tell you off. Just look at it, right? Like, but there's a real fear of looking at either how bad off I am, because it sets off an element of reality, and maybe finding ways to overcome that.
Right.
Because without it, being able to even sit down and write down what you're making, sometimes people won't be able to even get there. Any
Mhm.
suggestions or tools that you can provide to people who are even just afraid to look at where they stand?
Well, no, everyone has some sort of level of anxiety when it comes to, money and finances and things like that. But like I said, once you sort of know, you have that sort of control, and it lowers that anxiety level. But if you're just, in a place where you sort of don't know where to start, please, reach out to a financial advisor such as myself or someone else who can sort of help you, walk you through the steps. Sort of that's what our job is. That's what we're here for, to sort of help you get to that next level. But it's up to you to take that first step and realizing I've got to get my hands around this, whether I do it myself or I ask for help with a professional.
Yeah, really good. Thank you. All right, let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is, so we've already said set priorities. We've said make a budget. Here's number 3, build an emergency fund.
Yeah.
Genesis 41:34-36 says, let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take a fifth of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. This scripture really basically is speaking to just what I said, building an emergency fund. A lot of times we don't think about that, right? Because we are so busy trying to pull ourselves out of the right now, we don't get a chance to prepare for the tomorrow. And the truth of the matter is, there's always going to be a something.
Right.
There's always a something. We don't plan for our cars to break down. We don't plan, for somebody to get sick and can't take care of themselves. We don't plan, for some of the crises that we are met with in our day-to-day living.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to plan for what you don't plan for, right? It's so funny. Right. Most of us buy insurance and we pay for insurance, and you have a whole year and you never go to the doctor, right?
Right.
We make sure we have insurance. Why? Just in case.
Right.
Financially, we don't necessarily build for that emergency fund. So any thoughts or tools that you can speak to regarding that?
So yeah, it's interesting. I was reading the Federal Reserve had done a study asking Americans, if you had a $400 emergency, do you have savings to cover that? And 44% of the people did not. They would either have to borrow something, whether that's borrowing from relative or credit card, which is still borrowing, or they'd have to sell something in order to raise that money. That's $400, and that's, as you said, if you live life long enough, there's always some sort of emergency that happens. So one of the things that is important when you're building your budget is you have a line item of saving. And there's a lot of folks have a problem with that. So I found for myself and for others that if that's the first bill you pay is saving, that's the first bill you pay, that money's put away before anything else is paid, then that's sort of taken care of. But it's just getting to that mindset. Normally that's the last thing that we do. I got to pay this bill, I got to pay that bill, I've got to make sure, my car note, I've got this credit card payment, and
right.
And if there's anything left,
then I'll put it
in savings, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times things happen, and that doesn't happen. So you've got to get into that mindset of paying yourself first before you do anything else.
That's really, really good. That's yummy. That was a tool right there. Do it first. As you are going through your budget, do that first, because if you don't pay yourself first, you're not going to pay yourself at all. I know we talk about self-care, but listen, that's part of your self-care, that you will be able to be cared for later.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay. So that was number 3. Number 4, avoid debt. Yeah. And, that's really not, for a lot of us, that's not realistic. In fact, there was a survey that found 80% of all Americans are in debt. And the majority of the oldest Americans are still carrying some form of debt in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So even in retirement, you still, many of those that are in debt are your seniors, and they're still carrying debt in retirement. And 70% of those surveyed said debt was a necessity in their lives, something they didn't want, but still couldn't imagine living without. So let me go. The scripture is real simple. For number 4, we're talking about avoid debt. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. And it doesn't mean that you cannot be a borrower. It just means ultimately that if you are indebted to someone, whether it's the credit cards or you borrowed money from, your neighbor, the Mary Jane across the street, you're indebted to them until you pay that money back. Thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, unfortunately, debt is a way of life. Most, if you own a home, most folks have a mortgage. Not many folks are in a position where they're, in a position that they've, been able to pay off their house or had cash available to pay off their house. So debt is a way of life, unfortunately. But you've got to make sure that it doesn't get out of control. And again, with the anxiety level around, finances and sort of what can I do to take control, I tell people, okay, well, once you sort of list out, the debt side of the ledger, let's start small. What's the smallest credit card debt that you have that you can sort of tackle first? And once you're able to do that, it's just, your mind, you sort of gravitate to, okay, I was able to get over that small hurdle. What's the next hurdle? We sort of look at this big picture of my total debt in all. It's sort of overwhelming, causing anxiety again. And again, it just, sometimes it makes us bury our head in the sand because we'd rather not have to deal with it. Right. But, if you're finding that an easy way to sort of try to tackle that is start with the smallest balances first. Try to take those off the table. And then it becomes just a cycle with, look, I was able to accomplish this goal, was able to get over this hurdle. What's the next step?
That's really good. It's like a practice, right? A practice of anything. If you want to get in the gym, start small. Maybe go walking outside before you can make your way to the gym, right?
Right.
If you want to eat better, you want to make sure that you start small. Maybe drink, if water's not your thing, drinking a glass and then drinking a gallon, before you can get to a gallon. Financial wellness is the same. Start small. Where your areas where you struggle, and then begin to chip away at that. So that's a really good tool. Start small, tackle the smallest, and then work your way. And you're right. The mind has a way of rewarding us when we do accomplish whatever is that goal that we have. Right. And so it becomes positive reinforcement, right? Like, oh my God, I did this thing. Let me go on the next one and make a plan.
And you know what? Right? Let me put that credit card away because it's zero balance.
Yes, zero balance. Not gonna mess with it. Exactly.
Right.
What I do want to say about that, and you feel free to chime in. Don't cut them up. Don't close the account.
Oh God.
Keep the account open. Even if you get your credit card balance to zero, put it away. Yes, you can cut it up and you can always ask for another one, but do not close that account. However, be careful because some accounts, they will close you if you don't use it. So you got to be aware with your debt. You got to be aware of who it is. If it's a furniture credit card, is sometimes different than a major credit card, like American Express or Master or Visa, may be different than those. And so you need to know what having debt with them means.
Right. Because that can be detrimental if a credit card account is closed. That can be detrimental to your credit score as well. So you're right. You have to be aware of sort of what you have, and the rules that go along with it. And, if you have questions, there's an 800 number on the back of the card. Call them and ask that question. But
Absolutely.
yeah, once you have it open, you don't want to necessarily close it, like you said, because it could be detrimental.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, we're moving on. Number 5. We only got 7, y'all. We only got 7. All right, we're at number 5. Number 5 is let's diversify our investments. In other words, multiple streams of income, right? Diversify your investments. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, invest in 7 ventures. Yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Here again, your last one was avoid debt. This one is diversify your investments because you don't know what's coming.
Right.
Multiple streams of income. If you're working a job, great, but you may want to have some other means of income in the event that job goes away. When I was working, I worked a full-time job. And when I was working a full-time job, I remember just always saying, I can't wait till I can be a full-time realtor. I can't wait till I be a full. And then I lost my job. I was like, wait, hold on. I'm doing good in real estate, but that was my safety net,
Right.
And so it was gone. And I'm like, whew, thank God I have other businesses that I also have. So that, like you said, when you're working in real estate commission, sometimes it has those leaps and bounds. So on my low, I still have some other means of income that I can utilize, diversifying my investments. So yeah, thoughts.
So you're right. Sort of, we're all smart and capable of doing more than one thing. So I encourage, entrepreneurship and getting into real estate or things like that. And then on a smaller level, let's say that you have money in a retirement fund with your employer. There's ways within that pool of money to make sure you're diversified. Anyone that was invested in the stock market in last year, you saw your 401k balance. Most of us saw our 401k balance sort of take a deep dive after many years of seeing that sort of up climb. But if you were diversified and you had, some money in cash and some money in bonds and some money in stocks, you may not have been hurt as bad as if you were just 100% in stock. So make sure that even within your investment portfolio, you're diversified. And then, ask the question, many of us, you may be a realtor, you may be a nurse, you may be a mechanic. So you may not know, everything there is to know about, financial investments. So, well, ask, don't be afraid to ask the questions. I'm not a mechanic or a nurse. So, I wouldn't know how to do your job either. So it's, if you have questions, make sure you reach out to a financial professional. Can you look at my 401k statement, my quarterly statement, and tell me, I have these investments on there. Like, I have no idea what they're investing in. I have no idea, am I doing well? Am I not? Ask a financial professional to go over things with you, just, to make sure that you're clear, too, and to make sure that you have that diversification within that portfolio. So in times of, the stock market being down or, whatever is happening, that you are covered. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. Applies to many things in life.
Yeah, well, this is true. And so you strongly recommend diversifying. And what does that mean? Because somebody may be on here like, what does that even mean, diversifying?
So let's say look at things financially, for example. There are different things that you can invest in. Stocks, that means that you own equity in a publicly traded company. So if you own stock in Microsoft, that means you're a share owner of Microsoft. You have voting rights. You're able to receive dividends that they pay out. You are an owner of that company. A different investment would be if you're investing in bonds. That means you're a debt holder if you are a bond owner. So bonds can be from, the government, treasuries, they can be from a municipality, they can be from a corporation. And what that means is you're loaning money to that entity. They're paying you an interest rate, and there's a maturity date when you'll get that money back. And then there's always like a money market fund, which is like a savings. I tell my clients like a savings account. So you'll earn, some interest on that more recently than what has been paid in the past. So, and then there are, different investment vehicles that sort of merge all three. You might be in a mutual fund that owns stocks, it owns some bonds, it has some cash. So diversifying just means the type of investment that you have your money in.
Thank you for saying that, because I don't want to, just give information, because a lot of times people, they're not getting the information because they don't know the right questions to ask. And
Right.
So I want to make sure that we're providing them with as much as we can on the basic level so that they know what to look out for or what to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for breaking that down, because even I learned something. All right. Now we have made our way. Was that number 6? That was number 6. Diversify. No, 5 was diversify your. Right. Next is number 6. Number 6 is reduce risk as you age. Reduce risk as you age. And I'm going to put that up. Give me a minute. I'm going to put that up so that others can see. And here we're coming from Ecclesiastes 5:13 and 14. I have seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded from the harm of its owners, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when they have children, there is nothing left for them to inherit. Reduce your risk as you age. Being sure that some of what you have right now, you're not investing it, making bad investments, so that there isn't an inheritance. One of the things that's very scary to me as a parent is not leaving a legacy or an inheritance for my children. So that they understand that, one, they understand that principle, so that they're doing it for their own children, which
Right.
they have, right? But then even more importantly, that they are okay to some degree when I'm not here. So twofold: one, teaching them the importance of it, and then 2, leaving something for them. But if we're not doing that now, it leaves that risk of not having something later.
Right. So, I tell my kids that it's important to start early, as far as, if you're saving for retirement, whatever your financial goals are, it's important to start early and not think that, I'm young, I've got time to do that, because time is their greatest asset.
Right.
There's something called compounding that happens when you start investing now, and that sort of will, grow as long as you leave that money sort of investing in the market, the stock market, for example. That will continue to grow and be worth way more than someone, say, my age, just getting started. But getting back to the risk profile, is, you're right. As you get older, you want to make sure that you have a portion of your investments relatively safe. And that means that, if something should happen, just like last year, and with the stock market being down, the percentage that it was down, if you were 85 years old and you had all your money in the stock market, and what you had went down by 20 some percent or 30 some percent, that will raise the anxiety level.
Right.
So hopefully, that wasn't you have to have some growth or some risk in whatever portfolio you have, because you want to make sure that you have some growth, you have that potential for growth, but you want to make sure that you're keeping a part of that safe, because if you're 80 years old, it's not like you can lose it and go out and get a job tomorrow. So
right.
It's important to make sure your financial plan you're revisiting that on at least an annual basis to make sure you know how you're invested, and if your circumstances change or whatever that is, but make sure that your risk profile is correct.
Good. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we're moving right on to number 7. Here we go. Money, 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 money. Y'all still with me? Money, 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 money. That's where we at. Okay. So number 7 is, and it basically summarizes 1 through 6. Make a financial plan.
Yes.
Right? So Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. That's so good, right?
Yes.
Plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty, right? So we're either going to have profit or we're going to have poverty.
Right. Unfortunately, those are the sort of the two, one or the other, right?
Yeah, one or the other, profit or poverty. It's so interesting because many of us plan for so many things, but we don't plan to profit. We want profit, we desire profit, and sometimes we think we're doing the things we need to do to profit, but without getting the guidance and wisdom, are we really planning to profit?
Right.
Question for you. So again, if you're watching, for those that are watching, if you have any questions, this is a good time to throw it out there. Leslie, someone says, well, I'm older. I didn't plan for retirement. I'm just starting now. I'm in my 50s. I'm in my 60s. What do I do? Because a lot of times people will feel like it's too late.
Right.
And we all know that many people are getting old, living longer. So retiring at 60 and 65 and it's not as realistic as it used to be in yesteryear. And or the money might not be there. Right. So what is your advice or guidance to people who maybe are older already and have not set up for retirement?
So it's never too late. It's never too late to start saving. You may not be obviously in a position as someone, much younger than you who starts, but it's never too late. As you're right, many folks are living longer. So, if you have to postpone your retirement age, if your thought was, I'm going to, I'm done at 62, I'll collect early Social Security and, hope for the best. Maybe that, since you weren't able to save for whatever reason when you were younger, maybe you need to think about, retiring at a later date so that your monthly income from Social Security is higher. 2, if you work for an employer that has a retirement plan, and most of them have some sort of match, if you haven't already, please, enroll in the plan, take advantage of that. That's free money. That's free money that your employer is giving you. If it's, I work for an employer that every dollar that I save, they matched it 50 cents. That's a 50% return on your money. You can't get that anywhere. So take advantage of that. No matter, if you haven't started, certainly do that. I had someone who retired and what about where's your employer retirement plan statement? And never did it. His reasoning was, I didn't want them to know my business. Well, they pay your salary, so they know your business. So
we already know. In case you don't know, they pay you. They know.
Right. So, it's never too late to. So, if it's, you can get it for 1 year, you can get it for 5 years, you can get it for 10 years, whatever that matches that the employer is giving you, take advantage of that. Like I said, it's free money. If you went outside and for every dollar that was in your pocket, there was 50 cents on the ground, you'd scoop it up, right? Yes. So same thing. So it's never too late to get started. But you have to be realistic. It could be that yeah, you weren't able to save, like I said, so you might have to, postpone that retirement age, so that you're able to. Obviously, the longer you wait to start collecting Social Security, the more money that you'll get each month.
Right.
So it may be that you just have to do that.
That's good. Before I show that question, and what are your suggestions on? I know I used to get them. I haven't seen them in a long time, but Social Security Administration used to send kind of like a update as to
Right.
what your numbers are.
Yeah.
I encourage you to try and find out what yours are before
Yeah.
you. Mhm.
Yeah, so you can go right on their website. You'll have to obviously put in your social. They'll ask questions to make sure you are who you say you are. But I encourage everyone to do it at least once a year. One, you want to make sure that the information that they have for you is correct. The salary, because they list each year that you worked and what your taxable salary was. You want to make sure that's correct. Don't rely, just think it should be correct. You want to make sure that you're checking your records and get on top of that sooner rather than later. And then two, see, sort of where you are. Okay, this is if I retire at age 62, this is how much I get, 65, 67, 70, whatever the age is. And, you can see that, this is the estimate of what, you will have. But it's important to know that information again. In control, the more you know, lowers your anxiety level. So,
Yeah. Okay, there's two questions. Here's one. What's the best way to begin small investments?
so what I'll have friends of my kids who, they just want to start small. Obviously, I want to have $500. I want to start investing in something. What I always encourage is to start with what's called a mutual fund. I alluded to it a bit earlier. But a mutual fund is just a way of a bunch of different investors sort of pooling their money. There's an investment professional, a manager of that fund, who will then invest that pool of money into different things. So one, you're able to do that at a smaller dollar amount. Secondly, it allows for diversification, which is important. And then thirdly, it just allows you to get started. So that's one way to do that. Another way is if it's funny, I was just talking to a nephew of mine who, again, wanted to start small, called me for some investment advice.
Mhm.
And I told him his story of a client who, back in the 80s, when Microsoft came public, had decided at that time to stick, at that time, $20,000 into Microsoft. Didn't know a whole lot about the company. Was told, by an investment professional, like, this might be, a good company to invest in. So he decided just to stick $20,000 into it. And today and sort of just left it alone. Today, that investment's worth over $10 million, a $20,000 investment worth over $20 million or $10 million. Sorry. So as I was talking to my nephew, I said, think about products or services that you use now that could be the next Microsoft in, 30 or 40 years. And if you take and, invest a small amount of money into that idea, and just leave it there, and, you'll have ups and downs, and sometimes it's sideways, but leave it there. And then, it could be that, small investment turns into a great thing, a legacy that you can leave to your children. So,
It's good.
The most important thing is just to get started. So if you want, if you don't know what that idea is, I'm not sure. Well, a good way is, like I said, to invest in a mutual fund, so that you have that diversification. So that mutual fund might own Microsoft, but it also owns Amazon. Right. It also owns Apple. So it's a way to make sure that you're a shareholder in all those companies in a small way.
Good. All right, here's a second question, and I'm gonna let you answer first, but then I'm gonna tag me, because this is right up my alley. Margaret Holland said she's retired. She's on a fixed income. She does have debt, and she's inheriting some real estate. She's wondering if she should sell it and pay off the debt or do something else.
So the question is, if you're inheriting the real estate or whenever you're inheriting something, you have to be aware of what your cost basis is, because as with anything, you're going to have to pay taxes.
Mhm.
So it could be that you sell this property and then you're going to have this huge tax bill.
Mhm.
Or it could be that this property is Don, you probably know more about this than me, but
Mhm.
this property could be increasing in value, that
Mhm.
the growth rate of that is more than what you're paying
Mhm.
on this debt, so
Mhm.
it's worth it to hang on to it. So
Mhm.
there you sort of need to know a little more information about like what you're inheriting,
Mhm.
what's it worth, what's it cost. If I were to sell it, what's my tax issue going to be?
Mhm.
And then, or is it, I'm inheriting this real estate. It's in this area that's really growing, so maybe it's worth it for me to hang on to it,
Mhm.
because if I sell it, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it'll be worth substantially more than it is now. Tag, you're it.
Tag me. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Thank you. Ooh, ooh, tag me. So, Margaret, I will tell you, call me. Let's talk tomorrow, because everything that Leslie just said is key. Knowing where the property is, knowing what the background on that property is that you may or may not be aware of. I can let you know, we can together find out where it stands financially, what the homes in that community, what they have been going for. As a realtor, I have the ability to do something that's called a CMA, which is comparative market analysis, which gives you an idea of where your home would sit financially. I do something that's also called an annual equity review. So if anybody is watching, or you want to lower, here's another way to lower debt. You need to refinance your home. I can give you a range as to where your numbers are and where you would sit if you was to refinance. So we can talk a little bit more about those kind of things. So Margaret, I'm gonna hit you up, or you hit me up, and we can talk a little bit more. I can give you some more substance to help you make an educated decision about what you're getting ready to come into. I think ultimately, if you do believe, and you find that the numbers are right, and it puts you in a good position, it also is going to put you in a good position to take whatever funds that you'll gain from the sale to put towards an IRA or a mutual fund or some of those other areas as well. So,
Right. And I can help you with that. So.
yeah, there you go. And then I'll tag you back to her. Very good. This is so good. This is so good. Yeah, if any other questions that you have, this is a good time to submit them. Leslie, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to share with the group that I didn't cover?
Let's see. So I wanted to make sure I talked about cash flow, inflow, and then sort of, in setting up your budget, making sure you know what's coming in, what's going out. Wanted to talk about setting your financial goals, short-term, intermediate, long-term, being intentional about what those goals are. Also, it's important to, we have to take control of the sort of our financial health, not necessarily bury our heads in the sand, because that will go away.
Yeah.
And just the more that you know about where you stand and what you need to do, the better that you will feel. And reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, I think that it's the knowledge. I think about like needles, right? If somebody is afraid of needles, it's the anxiety of getting the needle it's so far worse than actually getting the actual needle. When you get the needle, you're like, okay, go ahead. They're like, I'm done. Wait, what? You done worked yourself up so much.
Right.
Of the fear of the needle. That's it, Lord. Don't let the fear of your finances keep you from being well.
Yes.
Don't let the fear of it. Tackle it, know it. There's a book that says you cannot conquer what you will not confront. You can't conquer your debt. You can't conquer your financial goals if you don't even confront it. So, Leslie, how can people reach out? Margaret, good. Yes, please call me tomorrow. whatever time works for you, I'm available. Let's talk. How can people reach you, Leslie?
So I will give you my work email address, which is, and I can type in the chat here too. That it's L Ashley, so LASHLEY at williamblair.com. Or you can reach out to me. I'll give you my cell phone number, which is 301-728-5809. Or, if you see me on Sundays in church, grab me, say,
Wait, I lost you. Hold on. 307.
I'm sorry, 301-728.
Oh, I'm checking it
I'll
all.
put in this
728.
5809.
Beans. I'm also gonna post it here. So we have
Okay.
Leslie. We got it there. And we have it here.
Right.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah. So, or if you see me in church and you want to, have a quick conversation, or, give me a call during the week, and we can sort of go over whatever questions you have, personal questions you have.
Awesome. Well, this has been a pleasure as always. I so thank you very much. Now, listen, for those that are watching, next week we are live. Leslie, I want you and come on out, bring your family. It's a family night next week at the church building, not online. We are going to do line dancing. This is going to be for the love of me. This is called the love of me. So we're going to get our bodies moving. We're going to have a good time. Laugh, enjoy. It doesn't matter that you're not a good dancer. Just come out for the fun of it all, right? Let's get our bodies and our hearts moving. So tomorrow, I'm excited already. So next Monday at 7 p.m. at Fresh Start Church will be line dancing. Come out. But I need you to register so that I know how many people will be registering. If you are watching and you plan on being there next week, tag I'll be there so that I know that you're coming, because I want to know. I want to see you in the building. I can't wait to next week. I'm gonna show you out. No, I ain't gonna show you. I might show out, but all right. Well, I love you all. Remember, this is Worship and Wellness, where we believe in biblical principles with practical steps. And tonight we have gotten many, many practical steps to be well. God bless. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Have a safe evening.